Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to continue our beginner sewing lessons. We're going to make a burp cloth. You're going to need some fabric. Now, depending on how many you want to make, you're going to need about a 30 yard per burpee. Actually, you get 2 burpees out of a third of a yard, or 2 halves, or you know what I mean. So you're going to pick a front and a back. What I've picked for the back is a remnant of white fleece, but you can pick whatever you want. So this fabric, these burpees can be made with any pattern. As long as you can find the fabric, you can do it. We're going to use a cotton, like a quilting fabric, or a printed cotton, a nice printed cotton. We got some fat quarters from Walmart for one side, and we're going to use some fleece for the other side. It doesn't have to be fancy minky fleece, but it can be if you want. And I wanted to just tell you guys that even if you don't have kids, this technique could be used for lap blankets, tablecloths, anything that you'll see. The technique is about sewing 2 pieces together and putting a stitch edge around it. So even if you don't have any need for baby burpees, you can still learn a lot from the techniques, okay? So as you can see, what I'm doing here is I'm ironing all my fabrics. What I was working with was remnants. So my remnants weren't like if I went into the store and said, can I have a third of a yard of this? I had fabrics that were left over from other projects and actually from the shower, and I bought remnants at Walmart. So it was a whole bunch of things. But I knew that I wanted the finished burpees to be about 10 by 18. So a yard of fabric obviously is 36 inches. So if you get a third of a yard, that'll be 12 inches by 44 inches. Usually the yardage is 40 to 44 inches in width. So if you get a third of a yard of fabric, you'll get 2 halves. Now, you can just make your burpee cotton and cotton, like the strap fabric. We could just do a stripe fabric and stripe fabric. It just won't be as absorbent and as cushiony as if we lined it with a flannel or a fleece. That flannel I got as a remnant from Walmart as well. It's just a piece of cotton flannel that we had from Eden's shower, and we just are repurposing it. You know, we had it from her wedding shower. I'm sorry. So we're just repurposing it for her baby, which I thought was fun. And this fleece I got at, this flannel I got at Walmart recently. So, well, in March. In January. When did I get it? I don't know. It was before the baby was born. Let's put it that way. But this is just another, just an idea of some fabrics that you can use. And I'm just doing rough cuts because I don't have the area to work with big pieces of fabric, unfortunately. So I knew that I wanted these finished burpees to be about, 10 by 18 or that, roughly, or 8 by 18. You want to have enough fabric to go over the shoulder and to catch any of the baby, mishaps. But like I said, you want to just make sure you iron out all your fabrics, and then pick ones that, at least one that will be absorbent, and then you could pick one that will be decorative, or you could just pick them to be totally utilitarian. I have actually seen some ideas on Pinterest where they actually just took a decorative fabric and backed a a cloth diaper. A lot of my sisters all used cloth diapers for burpees back in the day. So they just took a decorative fabric and they sewed it on the back of cloth diapers just to make them pretty. But these are just utilitarian, like I said. All right. And tomorrow we're going to be making matching drool bibs. So you'll see that there's a reason I picked these particular fabrics. So what I'm doing here is I've cut the pieces in 10 by 18, and I'm putting right sides together. So if you remember from the pillowcase or the first beginning sewing tutorial, right sides together is the part that you want to look out. It is the printed side, if that's the case, or the fuzzy side if it's a fleece, if that's the case. Okay. And what you're doing was we're pinning right sides together around all 4 sides. I'm placing the pins about every 4 inches, and these are just regular straight pins with the balls on the end. So this next step, what I'm doing is I'm trying to show you a beginner's tip. So a beginner's tip when you first start is you can measure in the 1 inch that you're going to sew on. And that's what I did along the way, so I can give myself a nice straight edge in case I cut it crooked. You know, when you're first starting, you may cut it crooked. So if we use that guide on the sewing machine and it's cut crooked, you're going to get a crooked line. So what I'm doing here to show you is I'm using this ruler. This ruler came with a quilting kit that I had gotten, which was a cutting board, a rolling cutter, a cutting board, and this ruler were all in a kit from Walmart from 100 years ago. I have since lost the cutter and the mat, but I got my ruler. I kept my plastic ruler. So I'm showing you is you just can draw a 1 inch border around the edge. And what that's going to do is that's going to help you keep a straight line when you're sewing. That's just another beginner tip. Until you're more confident with your cutting abilities, if you are working with remnants like this, sometimes you don't have the option to even have straight edges, or they don't meet up. Like you see that. The pink is much longer than the fleece. So I'll have to keep that in mind when I'm sewing around all the sides. Okay. Now, I did not pre-wash these fabrics, which when you're working with fabrics for, definitely when you're working with fabrics for clothing, you always want to pre-wash your fabrics because you don't want to have shrinkage. But when it comes to something utilitarian like this, I'm not worried about it. If you do have something that you're doing the same technique to make a blanket or sheets for a bed, you may want to pre-wash your fabrics to keep from shrinking. But that again is entirely up to you. All right. So now if you've never sewn, obviously this is a beginner sewing lesson. So if you've never sewn a pillow, and sometimes you take in home ec, you learn how to sew a pillow. So that's like kind of where I figured everybody would start. But if you ever sewed, never sewed anything that you have to turn right sides out, like a pillowcase, you know that you need to sew 3 sides completely, and 1 side you need to leave an opening to turn. Okay. I want to give you a tip. Don't ever leave from corner to corner. Now, I don't want to say never, but what you want to do is you want to make sure you sew all of your corners, and you're going to leave about a 5 or 6 inch opening along one of the sides, just in the middle of one of the sides. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm sewing to the corner, and I'm sorry that the light didn't get adjusted. I forgot to adjust the light, but you'll see it. I'm going to darken it in a second. You'll see it a little bit better. But like when we sewed the baby blanket, what you want to do is you want to sew along one side. I usually start about 2/3 of the way. Like, okay, so if I'm looking at the long side of the rectangle on the top, I want to start about 2/3 of the way towards the right. And then I want to sew to the corner. And then I want to turn the corner, and I want to sew all the way around and leave about a 6 or 7 inch opening across the top after I've turned the 4th corner. And when you turn the corners, I don't know if you remember, on a project that's this small, you're going to go straight to the corner where you marked that 1 inch. And then you're going to leave the needle down, pick up the dog foot, turn your work, and then put down the dog foot and continue with the sewing. And you pull your pins out as you go, and then you repeat that for all 4 corners. Okay, I think you'll be able to see it here in a second. I didn't adjust the light, and I really apologize. But it's just like we did for the baby blanket, okay? You want to sew your straight seams until you get to your 1 inch or 1/2 inch seam allowance in the corner. You leave your needle down. You press your foot up. You pivot your work 90 degrees, and then you continue sewing a straight line. And you pull your needles out, you pull your pins out as you go. There we go. Now I think you'll be able to see. I think I fixed it right. Nope, 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 nope. There it is. Okay. There we have it. Okay. So as you can see, I haven't started. I left a space.
Benefits from it. We were like, yeah, we'll try it, and it would be great if it did.
That was funny. So as you see, I left a space about, started about 2/3 of the way down on the one edge, the top edge. I'm sorry, I'm having so much trouble talking. You sew to the corner, you leave the needle down, press your foot up, and you pivot with the needle in the corner. That's basically what I'm trying to say. So you pull up the press foot and you pivot 90 degrees with the needle in the corner. This way you don't lose your space, you get a nice tight corner, and that's a really good beginner tip. Okay, and then you continue all the way back to the beginning, except you don't go all the way to the beginning. You leave about 6 inches of opening. Okay, now as you see here, we're going to cut the corners on a diagonal, but you have to leave at least a 1/4 inch of material from the sewing, from the stitches, to the cut edge. And the reason we cut the corner like this is when we turn it right sides out, we don't want all that bulk in the corner. Okay, so here's the tip. What I do is I put my thumbs in like I'm getting my socks ready, and I pull the corners out, and I turn each corner way before I turn the whole piece. Okay, all right, and I work the corners out with my finger. You can use a pen with no lead, like a retractable pen with the ink down, with the ink up, basically inside the pen. That's a good thing. I have a tool that my dad made me, which is just a dowel with a hook on the end that I like to use to turn corners. They actually have these special corner bone, like they're like a bone folder that's for pressing corners out. But I didn't think it was that critical. And if you're just beginning, you don't need to want to invest money in all those expensive tools. Now, once again, this is a project that you could do no sew, hand sew, stitch witchery, or glue. Okay. But we're trying to learn beginner sewing machine techniques. So that's why we're working on the sewing machine. All right. And we're going to just repeat. We did all the sewing. First we do all the pressing, then we do all the cutting, then we do all the sewing, then we do all the pinning, then we do all the sewing, then we do all of the turning, and then we go back to the sewing machine with our projects. Okay? And make sure we get all those nice corners. Now again, this is for this is me using a ruler. That's another option. Anything with a sharp square edge, not sharp, hard square edge. Again, this is beginners. This is for a baby. This is utilitarian, so it doesn't have to be perfect, which is why it's a great place to start and get some practice. But I was mentioning before, you could do a lot of different things with this particular kind of pattern. And I say pattern, but really it's the technique, because the pattern is just a rectangle. But like I said, you could do 2-sided tablecloths. You could do lap blankets. You could use these for beach blankets, or picnic blankets would be great if you have the area to lay all the fabric out. That would be so nice. If you wanted at this point to take this and stuff it like a pillow, that's how you would stuff it, like a pillow. And then you could hand close it or close it on its end, like we did with the big baby blanket, the milestone baby blanket. Okay, so now I'm just showing you turning all the corners inside out, and then pressing with your fingers. Now, finger pressing is a technique. It's something we call, when you sew something and then turn it right sides out, you sometimes have to wiggle the edges. Like right there, I'm going to show you right there. You kind of have to wiggle the edges to get the oh my goodness, the salvage on the inside to be as close to this. Oh, would this be so much easier if I actually knew the words? Never do a voiceover in the middle of the night. Sorry. basically what I'm doing is I'm wiggling with my fingers and I'm making sure that that bulk on the inside is as close to the edge as possible, because we're going to sew a quarter, half inch kind of border around the outside. And we want to make sure that we catch that so it doesn't, basically doesn't come apart. It's helped to reinforce it. That's all. And helps to keep it rectangle. Okay, and now I'm pressing it once I've turned it inside out, I'm pressing it, and I'm using pins just to pin closed the opening. Okay, because I don't want it to wiggle out on me either. Everything just wants to wiggle out on me today, doesn't it? Oh my, this is becoming quite a fiasco. So again, I'm just repeating with all of them. I know you guys, why do you love me? That's all I have to say. Okay, now back to the sewing machine. Now, when we did the milestone baby blanket, we closed the top and then added the border. We're not going to do that for this. We're just going to add the border, because the border on these burpees is going to be so close to the edge of the fabric. We're doing about a 1/4 inch border. We're going to catch that selvage and we're going to close that opening that we left. Okay, so you're not even going to have to do the extra step. And I know this is very hard to see, but I actually have the edge of the burpee right against the right side of my presser foot, and that is the border, that is the edge, the distance I'm using. That's the guide that I'm using for measurements. And just like when we sewed the inside, take it to the corner, leave the needle down, pull up the presser foot, and then pivot 90 degrees and then continue. And then don't forget to do your locking stitches in the beginning and the end. Trim and voila. And now I'm just going to repeat to all of them. I'm always going to start sewing over that hole that we left. Okay, first of all, we want to make sure we get those needles out. Second of all, we want to make sure it doesn't walk on us. Okay, we don't want anything to walk away on us. All right. And then the same technique. Corner, 1/4 inch, needle down, foot up, foot down. Turn, foot down, needle up. You get the drift. Okay. Again, I'm so sorry about the lighting here. I just zoomed in so you can see exactly how much of a border we've left. Okay. I'm just using my scissor just to cut the thread real close to the fabric. And so I was mentioning before, and now I can talk about a little bit more elaborately about the fabrics that I used. I used fleece, flannels, and novelty cottons. The novelty fabrics come in all different types of characters and pictures and whatever. I feel like whatever theme that you have going in your nursery or the baby's room or beach blankets, whatever you decide to do, I feel like that they had something for it, you know. And you also want to be mindful of the baby. You want to have something soft that's up against the baby's skin. So the one fabric here has got like a glittery thread through it, and it ends up being soft once it was washed, but I wasn't sure, so I made sure I put a soft fabric on the back just in case. Okay. And what I did for a gift is I made 4 of them. I made a set of 4 with 4 matching burpees, or coordinating burpees, I should say. Oh, these are burpees. 4 coordinating bibs. Oh my goodness. I don't know. I need a break. So that's it, everybody. I hope you really enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions at all, and I'm sure you will, because I was like a lunatic, please leave them in the description box. Oh, the description box. Please leave them in the comments down below. Don't forget to share this video with friends and family, anyone who could tolerate this voiceover. And if you haven't yet, click subscribe because you're crazy like me. And if you join the family, and when you do, a little bell will pop up. When you ring that bell, YouTube will let you know whenever I upload a new video. So as always, you take care. God bless. See you next time. Bye.